Welcome to Earth Grief Doula. I'm Susan Meeker-Lowry. Today I'm going to be talking about raging love. The idea was inspired by a comment someone made to the podcast Love, Not Hope, in which she said that love without action is self-deception. And so I decided that I needed to talk about raging love, which is what I mean ultimately when I use the term love in the context of Earth and the future. Many years ago, that term was in a book Starhawk wrote. It was either in The Spiral Dance or Dreaming the Dark. I can't remember which. And when I read that, it just totally resonated with me because it's how I felt and how I feel about Earth. It's how I felt and how I feel as a mom and as a grandmother. It's how a mama bear is when she will do anything to protect her cubs. That's raging love. You do what you need to do to protect those you love. And honestly, I feel like if love does not have action, then it's not love. It's something else. It may be affection. It may be comfort. It may be what we think is love, but because we're just sitting there doing nothing, obviously we are deceiving ourselves that we're actually feeling love. We're feeling something else, and it's not love, at least not my definition of it. Because for me, when you love someone, you will do what it takes to make sure that they're protected. And if you see them being threatened or harmed, you step up and you try to stop it. You don't sit and watch and hope everything works out okay. You take action. And that's what I'm implying when I talk about love. And hope doesn't necessarily get to that place. It might, but it doesn't necessarily. Love is a force that is the most powerful force in the universe. Brian Swimme wrote about how love was actually the force that created the universe. Not human love, but the attractive force that draws atoms together, the attractive force that has created the earth ultimately and us. And so it trickles down through the different layers of consciousness and what we perceive of as reality. And then as a human being, we have this notion of romantic love. But what I'm talking about is this deep love that grounds us and gives us the strength and the power and the fearlessness, despite that we might be afraid. We have this fearlessness that what we're doing has to be done, and we are the ones who are supposed to do it. One of the things that I used to say all the time when I was traveling around back in the 80s and 90s, talking about economics as if the earth really mattered, creating an economy for the living earth, and also all of the different campaigns that my organization was involved with, stopping the clear cutting, trying to stop Hydro-Quebec's expansion into James Bay. The various different heavy-duty projects that were national and sometimes international on scale, working with grassroots organizations and Native people, and basically people on the front lines defending their places. And I would travel and I would talk about how we needed to fall in love with Earth. We needed to love Earth like we love our children, like we love our partners, like we love our lovers and our friends. Because when we love that way, we do what we need to do to protect them. And yes, we make mistakes. Parents especially make mistakes all the time. But when we do, we acknowledge it and we go, oh, and we feel, we make sure that we try our best not to do it again, and we do what we can to make it right. And that's the kind of love that I'm talking about needs to be in our hearts and in our spirits for Earth. This is a love that encompasses anger. It's a love that encompasses rage. It's a love that brings hope with it, perhaps. But it is a love that is grounded in a sense of justice, in a sense of standing firm, in a sense of, no, this is going to stop and over my dead body. I used to say, when I was especially traveling into the Pacific Northwest often for the coalition to stop clear cutting in old growth forests, that I was grateful in a way that I didn't live there. Because if I did, I would have been tied to a tree all the time, and I never would have gotten anything else done. Because I don't see how I could have lived in a place and witnessed the destruction, the murder of the oldest living beings on the planet without doing something with my body to stop it from happening. All I could do really was what I was doing and lend support in whatever way I could to those activists, those Earth First activists at the time who were actually doing that kind of work in the forest, risking, in many cases, their own lives. And so that's the kind of love that I'm talking about. That's the kind of love that I feel is possible when we move through the grief that we feel over the losses of ecosystems and species and the destruction of the clean waters and the removal of mountaintops for coal. This is the love. This is the rage. This is what is needed to stop it. When policies don't work, when laws are ignored, when people value profit over the fact of even having a breathable, livable planet, that is when this kind of raging love is absolutely essential. And I feel that moving through the grief that we feel, the ecological grief, the solastalgia, whatever you want to call it, that earth grief, moving through that, acknowledging it, letting it in and moving it through, sitting with it sometimes because it's there. Doing that, being present in our hearts with this process and these feelings and these emotions and accepting them, that will give us the strength and the fearlessness and the courage that we need for when we are called to put our bodies on the line. And I don't know when or if that will happen. For me personally, I know that when I was raising my children, it was not a possibility, but I did support those of my friends who could do that. And I feel that there may come a time, even in my old age, where I will be putting my body on the line at some point, or maybe you will be too, and we'll be standing there together, holding each other, feeling this raging love course through us, grounding us, taking our feet down deep into the center of earth so that we are not knocked off. And this is what I'm hoping the Earth Grief Doula series will inspire, is the kind of work, emotional, spiritual, soul work, so that we can get through this, so that we will be able to walk out our door, join hands with other women or men, warriors, to defend Earth when she needs us to do so. Because the time is coming when we are going to have to be doing this. We are going to be called, and we need to act when that happens. And in my opinion, and in my heart, the force that we must harness and learn how to utilize and embrace is raging love.